Hey everyone, welcome back to Venturing Abroad, a podcast where we speak with entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders in the tech ecosystem about working, scaling, and investing internationally. My name is Erica, and I'm happy to be joined by Madison, one of our investors here at Daphne for this conversation. Good morning, Madison. How's it going this morning?
Hi, Erica. Thank you so much for having me. I am doing very, very well. It is very cold in Paris.
It's freezing.
I know, but I'm enjoying the transition into the holiday season. So all good on my side.
Me too. Something to keep us looking forward to.
Absolutely.
For this conversation, we have the pleasure of talking with Leo Liu, and together we're going to be venturing to quite a few different places as we spend some time predominantly in North America, Hong Kong, and mainland China. Leo has built his career across these regions as an entrepreneur, investor, and leader at companies including Tesla, Cisco, WebEx, Dentsu, and more. Leo, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to Venturing Abroad. We're so happy to have you.
My pleasure.
You've been a friend of Daphne since the beginning, so we're really pleased to have you today and to learn from your international experience. Before we get into all of your experience working and scaling across borders, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Leo? Where are you from? And what drew you to the tech and entrepreneurship ecosystem?
Sure. Yeah. So, a long story short, so I'm Leo. I was born in Taiwan. I left when I was 10, and started my work of venture. So that's my first little ventures. I went from Taiwan to Singapore, and later on to Vancouver, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, then to Shanghai, Hangzhou, Beijing, Hong Kong. So I work and live in 16 different cities. And
Wow.
later, yeah, I work for a few companies across multiple different industry. I was like counting it just the other night. I think more than 10 different industries so far, and still adding. Yeah, so I have a few ventures, I guess, in my life so far.
Wow. I think we're both very excited to dig into all of these different ventures, all of the different cities you've lived in. I'm sure you have learned a lot, but I guess if we go back to the very beginning, what led you to pursue an education and a career outside of Taiwan and take that jump of moving abroad?
Well, I was 10. So the funny story is that one night, my dad essentially pulled me away aside and said, you have two choice. One choice that you have to start studying abroad by yourself, or you have to stay in Taiwan because that my generation we have to serve military. If I don't leave by the age of 15 or something like that, then I have to finish serving military until 20 something. But my family is already planning to immigrate to the US. They're just waiting for approval, thing like that. So the timing might turn out if I don't leave now, then I'll essentially kind of get stuck in Taiwan until I'm 20 something, while the whole family is actually in the US. So that was like the first dilemma. My dad was smart enough to kind of give me that choice to make a decision because my grandma probably won't like me leaving her. So he essentially saying your decision. And but of course I know what he's looking for. So yeah, sure, why not? Right? Then I picked the first option of studying abroad, and with the option, of course, meet up with the family later on.
Mhm. And what was one of the biggest challenges or culture shocks that you faced when you first started studying abroad in North America?
Well, I actually went to Vancouver first, and Singapore, then Vancouver, and both of them are very culturally diverse.
Mm-hmm.
And another weird thing, or kind of little venture as well in Vancouver is that because my dad couldn't get me into a proper junior high, so he got me into a college. So
Oh, wow.
so all my classmates that are already in their 20s, some of them in their 30s, but it's one of those college that you have a lot of international students from Japan, from Hong Kong, from like everywhere, Korea, and so on and so forth. They usually go abroad to study for a couple of years, right, during their kind of work breaks, so on and so forth. So I'm like this 10 years old in a foreign country with a lot of different people from all over the world. And the funny thing is that most of us cannot speak English very well at the time.
Mm.
So we went there to kind of study ESL, right? English as a second language. So we ended up actually teaching each other our mother tongue. So
Oh,
I
cool.
actually learned quite a lot about Japanese, Korean, Cantonese, and other languages. So that's kind of fun first year for me.
And I'm sure that experience was transformative and was able to help you when you built your career and continued your studies across the world.
Yes, yeah, that's why I feel very comfortable with people from other countries, I guess, because to me that's kind of the norm, right? That you have people from all over the world and you kind of appreciate the cultural difference a lot more that way. Yep.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious, I mean, being 10 years old and having such a big decision to make, how has that informed you as a professional where you have to build a conviction and sometimes make really tough decisions? I'm sure having it start so young, it must have only solidified from there.
Yeah, yeah, living by yourself, if when you're so young, I guess that kind of force you to be independent
Mm.
very quickly. And there's a term nowadays in Silicon Valley that's getting pretty popular called the owner mindset. And to me, that's kind of natural, right? Because
Mm.
I kind of have to. I have only myself to count on. I get to make my own decision, but I need to be accountable for all the decisions on a day-to-day basis. And also after I start my own company, I also start my own company, started a venture in the business entrepreneurship pretty young as well. That I think that really helped shape me, right? In
Mm.
that mindset, a lot easier because later on I also work for a lot of Fortune 500 more corporate, right, type of environment. I noticed people who started off in corporations and been there for 20, 30 years, it's much harder for them to all of a sudden now develop this so-called owner mindset.
Absolutely. And I think from what you've said, from starting with this owner mindset and then having this quick opening of your mind, meeting new people, experiencing new cultures, it must have all been very, very formative. What would you say was that moment when you were young where you said, okay, this is what I'm taking with me forward?
Uh, I don't know. I'm not sure there's a moment. It's just all kind of happening naturally. And to be honest, I was a bit confused when I was younger because my path in life and even career is just very untraditional, right? All my friends after they graduated, right, they work on one company, in one have one title, one role for 10, 20 years, go from a junior to senior to manager to director, but it's like a linear path. And I'm like jumping everywhere, all over the world, all over the place. So it's a little bit confused. I wasn't sure this is good or bad, but but it just kind of happens. But now, after 30 plus years, I was able to connect those dots together, kind of like what Steven Jobs, talking about, connecting the dots. Once I connect the dots now, I actually feel, hey, it all makes sense to me now. So yeah, so sometimes when you're younger, it's difficult to tell like how because you can only guess what's going to be the next step. And you just have to trust, I guess, and just move forward. And eventually all these thoughts will work out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you went from, if I understand correctly, from Vancouver and then eventually made your way to UC Berkeley, where you received your degree, working after in LA and in Silicon Valley. What do you think are some of the most important things people should know about coming to the US, coming to California, and integrating themselves in the business and tech ecosystem, specifically in this region?
Yeah, I think California's California sunshine, right? So
Oh,
people are
yeah.
very friendly, very open. So you should, I think sometimes people are a bit shocked about how friendly people are, which in a good way. But then you can quickly adapt to that. But I think it's a bit superficial, right? Besides that, happy smile, how do you really get down and deeper
Mm.
and really ingrain to the culture and make really strong relationship? That still take a lot of effort. My suggestion was like, don't be tricked with to a certain degree, right? By that friendliness, because that's just the culture of California. You really have to put in the effort and the time to build a strong relationship with people there, just like
Mhm.
everywhere else. Yeah.
As a Californian myself, I completely agree with your analysis of the culture and the integration. Can you tell us a little bit what Silicon Valley was like at the moment that you started working there?
Wow. Silicon Valley after I left for a couple of years now and looking back, and also I do go back and visit from time to time, I didn't realize it's such a unique place that, especially for entrepreneurs and startup and tech companies, that it has everything. It has the fundings, the VCs, the P's for different stages. You have the lawyers. You also have the tech talents. You have the marketing people, salespeople. It has a very complete ecosystem that's very, very unique compared to any other place. It doesn't have manufacturing, but they have a very strong manufacturing tie. Like NVIDIA, right? It's also kind of
Mhm.
funny that now all the AI, chip makers are all ex-Taiwanese. So I guess Taiwan people are pretty good with electronic stuff. That's actually what I remember when I was younger. It's like almost all my friends and families, they are in some kind of electronic type of business. So I think Silicon Valley, you just have that very unique ness that, every time you go to a coffee shop, you will have somebody talking about starting a company or getting funding, pitching or something. And this guy might be a unicorn founder, sitting right next to you,
Mhm.
eating a sandwich, driving a Civic, Toyota, but this can be a millionaire, a billionaire, and that's just Silicon Valley, right? So.
I'm so jealous. I'm from Connecticut and we definitely don't have that. I'm curious about now having a bit more of a macro view away from Silicon Valley. What do you think has evolved and changed the most from when you first arrived?
Yeah, I think it's definitely evolved. Well, I moved there before the dot-com. I was studying in Berkeley already, but I think the whole dot-com really shift the culture. Like for example, because WebEx was the one of the early stage startup I joined in 2000, right before the dot-com crash. But we got really lucky that we actually went public just right before the crash. They also got very lucky with the 9/11 because we're doing online meetings and all the flights got grounded. So our stock price went went up to 80 something dollars very quickly, and was later acquired by Cisco in 2007. And that's when I realized like Cisco being a one of the earlier a major Silicon Valley tech company, right? Tech giant by the time in 2007, that the culture compared to WebEx is very different. In the good old days, it's more about shipping boxes, about scaling the business. It's essentially the big fish, right? You become a really big fish. But then in the software as a service side, right, like WebEx, it's all about speed, right? So the belief is that small fish, but if you're fast enough, you can actually eat up the big fish.
Mhm.
Because Microsoft was trying to be WebEx, right? There's a lot of big tech giants wanted to kill us, every year. But WebEx actually survived, and later on, of course, one of our engineer manager, right, Eric Yuan, started a small company called Zoom. Now
Small
become a tech
company.
giant. Now became a tech giant now. I think in Silicon Valley, anything can happen just because you the winner today. Just because you're the giant today doesn't mean you'll be the giant tomorrow. I think that culture is always there, but it's just the speed of
Mhm.
that happen is very fast. Before we talk about every 5 years, now it can be much faster than that.
What do you think are some of the reasons why WebEx was able to survive and to grow so quickly?
Um, I remember one day, like when Microsoft announced that they acquired one of our competitor and wanted to compete with us directly. The CEO actually called a kind of town hall meeting right away, and instead of on the Apple box, right? And what he said kind of resonated with me is that in order to provide a 24/7 software as a service business, there's a lot of hard work, a lot of dirty work. You essentially have to support it 24/7. Instead of shipping a CD that only costs few cents, but you can make a couple $100 on it, versus us, we charge each user only $14 or even lower than that. Yet we have to provide 24/7 support. We have to provide all this infrastructure, all the applications, everything along with it. It's a much harder business to be in. So he believed, right, that Microsoft will have a hard time doing this type of work well and really taking care of the customer really well, um, because they are just so used to making this 200 times profit by shipping CDs.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think this is something that interesting about software as a service now is that you have to be very agile, move really fast, very customer focused, very customer centric. And this is something I think some of the big company kind of lost it after they became so big. I'm pretty sure they had it when they are small. That's how they was able to grow, right, to that size. But
Mhm.
once you get to more than 20,000 people, some people are saying, once you get to that, then it's very difficult to not have bureaucracy set in. So being a small company at that time, I believe we only have 3,000 something people. I mean, it's pretty decent size, but compared to Microsoft, we were like tiny, right?
Yeah.
So our ship can turn, right? And anyway, right, on the dime, versus Microsoft will be very difficult for them to do that.
Yeah, sometimes having a smaller team can be more efficient if it's organized correctly. After you spent many years living and working in the US, you decided to go back to Asia. What led to this decision? And did you face any reverse culture shocks when you made your way back?
Yeah, so that was 2007. So I was working for Cisco at the time. The CEO, John Chambers at the time, a very smart business person, wanted to have a so-called China 3.0 strategy, essentially to repair the relationship in China and grow the business there, and also leverage the talent and manufacturing capability more in China. So what happened is that Cisco sued Huawei because Huawei kind of
Wow.
copied some of the code. They didn't even change some of the wording, so they just copy it. Um, and of course, Cisco, sue Huawei, but Huawei, as you know,
Mhm.
is one of the national treasure, right, of China. By suing, Huawei did not work out too well in terms of relationship with the Chinese government.
No.
By the same time, Cisco is a public company. You
Mhm.
also want to do the right thing. So what is the right thing? What's not the right thing? John needs people who knows the Chinese culture, but also knows the American culture, who knows what need to be done as a public company, but at the same time able to navigate a very gray area country. And because in that time, it's not like right now, China was still uh, very, I'll say, lack of a better term, chaotic. So even for me as
Mhm.
Chinese, right? But I actually never really worked in China. So this is also a bit of shock for me that I didn't realize besides the five-star hotels that I used to live in when I had a business trip there, So having a business trip there versus actual living there, working there is very different.
Mhm.
Because you get out of that five-star hotel and really actually get into the day-to-day, right? Really, that's why I talk about even in California, you really need to spend the time to really get down to this, couple levels deep to really understand what's going on. So yeah, so there's quite a lot of things that kind of shock me. I have to adjust to and learn about. Even though I thought, I can speak Chinese, this will be relatively easy for me to adopt. But it took actually, I'll say, more than 4 or 5 years for me to feel actually really comfortable
Oh,
to
wow.
do business in China.
And what would you say is the secret sauce, the thing that you learned that really allowed you to access this new professional working compared to Silicon Valley? What were those big differences?
You really need to look beyond the cover
Mm,
and really need to get really deep because especially in China, a lot of business are not done in the meeting room. They are done after work. They are done
Really?
on the dining tables, in karaoke, singing, dancing,
How
golf.
fun.
There's a lot of untraditional decision making
mhm.
environments, and you need to kind of adapt to it and know the what is the cultural norm. I for example, in Chinese restaurants, you have that big round table.
Yeah.
There
Mhm.
is actually a sitting arrangement. If you sit in a round chair, you'll be in trouble.
Ooh, what does it mean?
Because there's actually arrangements that who like by ranking and by the guests, and there's actually a rule you have to follow. You cannot just sit. Like in the US, right? You just sit, right? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Um, But in China, you have to sit in the right place.
How
And when you
interesting.
actually toast, you also have to toast in the right sequence, in the right way. And even when you hit the glasses, right? When you toast, if it's someone who are more senior than your glass has to always be a little bit lower than that person. If it's higher, then that's not good. Yeah, it's like all these
Really?
small things I didn't know from US.
For sure.
That people have to tell me as and I go, oh, okay, sorry about that. I'm in the wrong seat.
And is there a cheat sheet? How do you learn those other than just experience?
Well, I start asking people first, like, where should I sit? And I have a kind of executive assistants, or I have someone that I know that's more local, and I ask them first, hey, what's the sitting arrangement? Who's the guy sitting right next to me? What do I need to be careful?
Mhm.
What not to say, what to say. All right, you kind of have to prepare and be mindful a lot more than I'll say in the US, right? In the US, you can just show up and you don't have to worry. I mean, you still need to be mindful for sure, but I will say a lot less planning required.
Mhm.
You can just show up. But in China and I will say in most Asian countries, you have to be planning a lot more in advance.
Interesting. And if we were to compare Silicon Valley versus the tech ecosystem in China, what do you think are some of the biggest differences and some of the similarities?
On the tech side, I actually it's getting more and more similar. Before it's very different. But now I think in China, there's quite a lot of people from Silicon Valley that went back or went there to start their own business, and also a lot of multinationals set up headquarters or business there. And of course, the Big Four consulting companies also been there for many years already. And the last, I'll say 20, 30 years, the business was just booming like crazy. So a lot of newer generations, they have been very well trained, I'll say, in some ways, probably even better trained than in the US now, because in the last 20, 30 years, a lot of now the middle upper management already went through couple rounds of kind of full cycles. What I meant by that, like for example, people who work for Alibaba already went through early stage to IPO to international scaling, and they might jump to another big company, went through that again. So the management team, the leadership team in China, they are actually very well educated now. And the younger generation, they are all very well educated in the Western countries as well. So it's very different than in the early 2000s that it's actually very difficult for me to even find somebody who can speak fluent English. Like, for example, we're trying to hire test engineers, and it was so hard to find a test engineer who can speak English, even decent one, even type it. The professor actually gave me a very good tip and saying, like, Leo, why don't you actually try to hire people who are in the English major? Because people in the English major, they know how to speak English. You can teach them technical skills and how to test. That might be much easier than try to teach
Mm.
an engineer how to speak English after they are 20. Then we actually tried that. Then it actually worked out for us. Yeah, because for testing
Oh, wow.
engineer, the technical skills doesn't have to be very deep, but their communication skill has to be much higher. So that actually worked out. So rather than trying to hire from computer science major, we end up hiring from the English major, and that worked out better for us.
And how do you think that has evolved now, where you're saying people are much more educated? Is there still an emphasis on finding people who speak English very clearly? Or because it's more widespread, are you able to focus on people who have very deep technical skills?
Yeah, China, they have this so-called tier system. So now tier one, tier two, tier three systems.
Mm.
The tier one system is essentially the top schools typically get the best students, the well-educated, and most of them are from very affluent families. So in that tier, typically you'll have very smart, but also uh, pretty capable, both language and culture type of students. But they'll also be a bit more expensive and also a bit more jumpy, right? Because they have a lot of opportunities. Um, I'll say probably 5, 10 years ago, pretty much all of them want to be the next Jack Ma or Tony Ma. They all want to become the next Elon Musk. So they do have very high expectations as well. In the last couple of years, that has, I'll say, came down quite a lot
Mm.
because, as you know, with the geopolitical tension now, and a lot of foreign multinationals actually are moving out or closing shop in China. So it's not so easy compared to before that just with a PowerPoint, you'll be able to raise, 10, 20 million US dollars in China. Now it's much harder. The VCs are getting a lot more careful about investing in China. So for a college grads, I think they are getting more back to basic, starting from more of the level one now. So I think they are more grounded now. I actually think that's a better thing, right? Longer term speaking, than before everything was so high flying and everybody think that they can become a millionaire by the time they are 30. That's not a very realistic expectation anymore.
And can you go a little bit deeper on how some of the funding dynamics differ in China versus in Silicon Valley? What are some of the VC expectations, the speed?
Yeah, in China, Asia is is very interesting because um, if you are over 35, you are considered too old already.
To be a founder?
Oh my
Yeah, to be a
goodness.
founder, even to be employed. If you
Wow.
lost your job after 35, it will be very difficult for you to be hired again because you're considered too old.
Wow. That's I guess there's no term for serial entrepreneur then.
Yeah, but in Silicon Valley, it's okay, right? You can
Yeah.
start up a company in your 40s, 50s, nobody's going to look down on you. In fact, it's not legal, right? To have a age discriminations, right?
Certainly not in California.
Mhm.
Yeah, but in Asia, especially in China, in the job description, they will actually specifically written no one, over 35.
Wow. I feel it's the opposite. Now we have this struggle often in the US and I think in Europe as well of overeducated but not enough experience. So you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, okay, I'm gonna just play it between being an intern and figuring it out until I'm 35. So
Right.
that's a big difference, and I wonder how that will change with an aging population in many parts of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah,
but
true.
before, like I say, you can have a PowerPoint, you graduate from a good school, you look good, then they'll give you a lot of money and you can be successful. But that day
Wow.
has gone. But they still have this expectation, right? If you're 35, you're too old. But for a lot of 20 years old, 30 years old, the reality is that they are not going to have that much experience and knowledge. Um, but how can you have someone with very deep knowledge and young
Mm.
at the same time, willing to work their ass off to start a company and take all the risk? So that pool becomes smaller and smaller. And just like you said,
Yeah.
China is also aging population as well. Then,
They're gonna have to bump it up to 40 or something.
yeah, like where do you find the right, founders?
But how much of that is also an opportunity for us international investors? I know a lot of people are now looking at China and the rest of Asia too as a great, great place to be focusing investments. And I guess when there is that nuance, and for example, okay, we'll take everyone over 35. Do you think that's a strong opportunity for us?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, before because China was booming, right? So
Yeah.
people don't need that opportunity. They think it's too much hassle. But now, actually, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, very strong, either technically or have a lot of really good experience. Serial entrepreneurs,
Mm,
they are actually looking for that opportunity, and they don't mind actually relocating now, to another country.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's actually a much better opportunity, I'll say, for international investors now to look at this as a good talent pool and maybe do a reverse rather than trying to start a business in China right away, but you hire the talent from China first,
Mm.
and make the and achieve the product market fit in other country, then go back to China. That actually might be a much better approach. And the founders actually have very strong China experience and connections already, but you already make it work outside of China. That actually, I think, might have a much better success rate than you try to start something in China. Right now, because China is so cutthroat right now, even for Chinese are hard to make it nowadays. So it's not so easy to do the early stage ventures in China at this point in time.
That gives us a lot of things to think about. What is one thing that you think the West misunderstands about China's tech ecosystem, and one thing that China misunderstands about Western tech culture?
I think one misunderstanding people have is that the China tech ecosystem is really just the so-called BAT, right? The Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. 10 plus years ago, that's true. But now we're talking about thousands
Mhm.
and thousands in every province. So people have to realize China is not really, China is big. It's one country. However, each province is like a mini country by itself. It has more than 10 million people, most of them, even 20, 30 million people we're talking about. It's actually bigger than some of the countries already.
Wow.
And for the same business, they will always sponsor and promote the business or the company that's registered in that particular province. So even though the Chinese government has, it's one party, right? They do set national policy, but they are also very pro in terms of internal competitions. They will actually encourage competition between Shanghai and Beijing, for example, right? And Shenzhen. So it's not just everybody listen and everybody do the same thing. That's not 100% true. Everybody follow the direction, but there's very fierce competition with it. That's how you can eventually have the black horse that wins the race, right? Then that will kind of dominate the world, right? That's their strategy. So I think that's a misconception that China, there's only, everybody listen to the government. There's only one company doing one thing. That's not really true, right? Like Huawei networking is like and millions of companies doing networking. But they are able, I think another thing that's a bit different than compared to the US is that even there are thousands and millions of companies in that particular sector, they are able to link them up and work together with the government and which also owns the banks on the financial side to group them to loosely. So kind of it's a very interesting way they do it. It's kind of loosely coupled, but then they can quickly get all this different capability to work together and to create something for the future. Like for example, electric vehicle, right? As you know, China in the
Mm.
last 10 years, in a very short period of time, was able to advance in this area, and now it's probably even more advanced than America in some areas.
Hmm.
It's because China governments was able to give this direction and group all this different component from battery to motors to electronics to steels, glasses, and so on and so forth, and create a whole industry, a new industry, in less than 10 years.
That's so interesting, and it's so different, I guess, from what we see in both Europe and the US. I wonder what there is for both regions to learn from the strategies you've just outlined in China.
And can you share with us one thing that you think China misunderstands about Western tech culture?
Uh, Probably a lot before. Um, Now I think China is actually confused, I would say.
Mm.
Because we do have a very interesting leader in the US right now. I think even Americans are confused. It's a bit
Interesting.
sporadic right now. But yeah, it's like, okay, how do you like what is the rule
Oh,
now? Like
gosh. Yep.
how do you play the game? Like seems like
It
every
changes
day,
by the hour.
yeah, it can be different. And it's like what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do? You're not even sure anymore.
Yep. That's
So
very true.
yeah, so China kind of right now, I think it's kind of playing a kind of wait and see type of game because it's his second term. If nothing changes, this couple more years, right? China can
Yeah.
wait. Um, but right now, uh, I think everybody is just a bit confused in terms of yeah, what is how do you compete and collaborate and partner? Because the whole globalization is not what it used to be. But then what is the new model? I don't think anybody really knows yet. And I think it's still in the early stage of morphing. Hopefully it
Hmm.
doesn't lead to any world war or anything. But it's definitely not in the last, I would say, 30, 40 years, the whole movement to globalization is also very different than what it used to be. Um, and now with AI, of course, adding even more complexity to this
Absolutely.
global economy. Yeah, it will be very interesting to see how things play out. I think AI might help a lot or might make things even worse. We'll see how things play out. I'll say probably in the next, well, it depends on also who's going to be the next president.
Right.
Yeah, where we're all
Um,
watching closely.
yeah. But China is also a bit different with this term because China used to, if I remember correctly, used to have a 10 years limit or 20 years limit. Sorry, I forgot exactly, but it's a limit, right, in terms of the terms for the
Mm.
country leader. Um, it's changed, it's and amended now. It's unlimited term.
Oh.
I think Trump actually was thinking about that. I don't think it's going to be possible in the US.
Yeah.
So China right now is essentially the leader can stay in power forever. So it's very different than the Western
Right.
politics. I mean, it's even different than what China used to be. So I think that also adds another very different dynamic. to this whole geopolitical tension.
Wow.
Goodness. And I'm
Yeah.
curious if you had to give one piece of advice to founders either in China or also in Silicon Valley in navigating these changing political environments and building a company because as you said it is so intertwined, what would you tell them?
Good question. I will say probably what again Steve Jobs say, right? Stay hungry, stay foolish. As founders, as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to, right? And I think this just makes you even more have to, right? Be conscious that, whatever you think is working today, it might not work tomorrow. But at the same time, it doesn't work today, it doesn't mean it's not going to work tomorrow. And if it doesn't work in China today, maybe it will work in the US and vice versa. And there's another 200 something countries in this world. Why limit yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is also kind of go back to like the very beginning, because I've been to so many places and so many different countries. To me, I never feel there's a limitation. I actually feel there's still a lot of um, country, cities, industry I haven't explored that hopefully I get a chance, right, to try them out before I die. But some of the founder because they don't have this experience, so I see them kind of get stuck and they feel like, oh, this is the end of the world just because this thing didn't work in this place. I was like, hey, just go travel around and open up your eyes. There's still a lot of places and a lot of people you haven't met yet. Why don't you try it again, right? Or do something else, go other places. So that would be my advice to the founders is that don't give up so easily. And also be, don't keep on trying this. I mean, I guess it's Einstein said, right? Like the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expect a different result.
Yeah.
But I see people actually do that. I don't know, understand why. It's like, okay, if it doesn't work, why don't you try something else?
Mm-hmm.
Try in different place.
No, that's great advice. And Madison is actually drinking out of a coffee mug that has the Steve Jobs quote, stay hungry, stay foolish. So it's something that we
Oh.
certainly keep in mind here at Daphne as
That's right.
investors and working with entrepreneurs. And I'd love to take a moment to talk about your time as a leader at some of the world's biggest tech companies. As we mentioned earlier, you've worked at WebEx, Cisco, Tesla, Dentsu, Gammon. What has surprised you the most about innovating inside large companies and for many of these large traditional companies?
Oh. Well, I wouldn't say surprised because I kind of know
Mm-hmm.
that for a while already. But I think there's a kind of recently a example that because I had a crazy idea, I wanted to do something, but then the team ends up starting having a lot of meeting, doing a lot of analysis, trying to come up with a lot of PowerPoint, business case, and so on and so forth. But after a couple of weeks, they are still doing that, and I start getting a bit frustrated, right? With my kind of Tesla hat on again. So I share a story with them that Elon Musk, right? He had a boring company, right? Essentially digging tunnels underneath, and so you don't have to worry about traffic. He actually had that idea while he was going back, because Tesla is in San Francisco, right? Well, Fremont,
Mm.
right? Palo Alto, no, North California, and SpaceX is in South California. People who live in Los Angeles knows the traffic's terrible in
So bad.
Los
It's a reason
Angeles.
why I left.
So he was like stuck in traffic for like 4 hours or something. He got really frustrated. That's why he thought of idea. Why don't we actually go underneath, right, and have multiple tunnels
Mm.
and to avoid then we can solve the traffic jam issue. So after he got back SpaceX and shared this idea with some of the engineer, guess what? In the afternoon, they start digging holes in the parking lot.
Oh, goodness.
Right? That's Tesla speed, right? You dig
That's
the hole first
crazy.
and figure out what to do next. You don't have like meetings after the meetings and PowerPoint after PowerPoints, right? So I think for a lot of corporation, they are so used to that, right? They are so used to
Mm-hmm.
business case analysis, but then it became like analysis paralysis. You spend so much time doing that, doing something you have no idea about. Why don't you just do something first and fail, right? Because in the entrepreneur world, quick fail, right? Or fail fast is, you have no choice. You have to do it. But in corporations, it's just so unnatural
Mm.
that they want to do things perfect the first time, even though they have no idea how to do it. That's why they have to spend a lot of time analyzing and hire consultants to analyze even more. And just so they wonder how come they cannot innovate fast enough or make it real. They're like, well, that's the reason why. So I
Speed,
suggest
speed,
them to,
speed.
yeah, speed, right? So I suggested them to just dig a hole first. I'll take the accountability if it fails, right? Put it on me. I don't care. It's okay. Then the team start moving. And once they start moving, then they start learning a lot. And of course, we do retrospective on the regular basis, what we learn, how should we improve. Then people got over it, then they start making progress. But if I don't put my foot down and share that story with them, yeah, I mean, even till today, we're probably still working on PowerPoints.
Yeah. And for over 4 years, you were the head of technology for the APAC region at Tesla. How did you first land at the company, and what drew you to join Tesla at that particular moment?
That's also a very funny story. So the VP at Tesla, we used to work at WebEx before.
Oh,
So
okay.
always be nice to your coworker because you never know
Absolutely.
You
when you're
hear
going
that,
to cross
Erica?
path
Hear
again.
that, Madison?
And Tesla was going to expand into China and Asia. They need to build from essentially zero again. And I was actually at Cisco managing a very big R&D center, more than 500 people. I actually have a driver. I was on extra package. So I have to make us comfortable. By the same time, I was too comfortable. And this is, I think, my entrepreneur
Mm.
kind of spirit kind of kicking again. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, it's too comfortable. I need to get myself into trouble again. Uh, that's
Stay
when they actually
foolish.
reach out.
Exactly.
Yeah, stay foolish, right? And that's when they reach out, say, yeah, let's talk. But Tesla moves so fast, it's so crazy, right? And usually this type of hire, again, in a corporation, is probably will take like years, right? And 200 rounds, right? To make
Absolutely.
a
If you're
hiring
lucky,
decision.
200.
Yeah, but it was just one round with the CIO. And then a week later, they actually flew a small team over with network engineers, security engineers over to Shanghai to set up a rack in a data center. So they asked me, say, why don't you meet them? So I met them. So they arrived really late, so like around 11 p.m. at night. So we talked till maybe 1 a.m. in the morning. And guess what? The next morning, I was in a data center set up servers with them already.
That's incredible. What time did you start?
We start around 7 a.m.
Oh my
Whew,
gosh.
that's a short night.
Yeah, then we work whole day. Then we again went for a drink again. And I guess after that, they make the hiring decision because, okay, this guy can work.
It's so interesting. It's really the opposite of slow and steady wins the race. And I think
Yeah,
Tesla's always exemplified that.
right. And also they took risk, right? Because they haven't even hired me, yet they have me in their data center doing work. I have no insurance or whatever. If this is at Cisco, there'll be legal, HR, so many people will be jumping up and down. So, oh no, you have to fill out this form, fill out that form. And no, you were just, hey, you want to go? Yeah, sure, let's go. Let's do it.
I love that. So I think it's kind of known that Tesla, it's fast, it's productive, it's let's get stuff done. What would you say on the converse side is a misconception many people have about working at Tesla?
Um, I think people think that Elon is smart. I mean, he's smart. But I think people think that Tesla don't make mistake because Tesla is so good,
Mm.
right, at everything. That's definitely not true. We make mistake a lot. And but the thing is that we correct our mistakes so fast that people don't remember or they don't realize.
And it helps you
So
go
so
faster. Yeah.
yeah, and Elon really believed in speed and hard working and not just, to make it perfect. And even though he's smart, he also don't think he make all the right decision all the time. But
Mm.
he doesn't care. He get over it, right? If it's wrong, then he will just make another decision,
And I
right?
think I'm curious how that fits into anyone who's a perfectionist and is listening. Being a perfectionist can slow you down so much. You're scared to make mistakes. How do you think that fits in? What should people do? Just go, be confident, be ready to make a mistake, but also be ready to quickly pivot?
I'm actually a perfectionist myself. So I learned that in my early days. So at WebEx, we actually have a weekly meetings called Pursuit of Excellence. I
Pursuit of
actually really like
excellence.
it because excellence, you need to pursue it. It never ends. So same thing with
Mm.
perfection. It's something you pursue, but it's not something you have to wait to, or do, analyze to death for perfection. It's just something you have to continuously fail and do in order to be excellent, in order to be perfect. And I think that's something a lot of perfectionists don't realize. I also read another book about because I do have that problem, sometimes overanalyzing. So I
Mhm.
start to read that book. It's called 5 Seconds Rule. So if that decision is not going to kill yourself or kill somebody, after you think you have done quite a lot of analysis, you even kind of frustrated yourself, you are still thinking that you should count down to five. And it has to be down, not up. So five, four, three, two, one, then you make a decision. Then you do. Stop thinking.
I love
um,
I'm gonna
that.
practice that today.
and it actually helps. and and also it in that book also stated it's like, come on, if you really think about your whole day, how many decisions you have to make? You actually have to make quite a lot of decisions
Mm.
every day. But how many of those decisions is really life or death decision?
Very few, at least on my end.
Right. So then why are you taking so much time to make a decision?
That's great. I
Right?
guess for
Yeah.
all of us who don't have practice doing that from 10 years old, we have a book trade coming up for our Christmas lunch. So maybe that book will be on the list.
Yeah, we'll have to read it. When we think about Tesla, a lot of people view it as a company that, as you mentioned, is solving problems in unconventional ways. Can you share with us an example during your time at the company when the team approached a challenge in a way that maybe a traditional business would not have done?
So many. Yeah, we if because we are doing things that hasn't been done before, so there's really nothing for us to copy, right, or
Mhm.
learn from. And so we kind of have to just be open and try everything and anything, right? Like for example, this is not a Tesla example, but SpaceX example. The fuel, in the space X, they build rockets, and the fuel tank is actually stainless steel, but it's super expensive. So one day, people was looking at, there are trucks for milk that also stainless steel tanks. So people start thinking, what can we, if that company can make stainless steel tank for milk, what can they not make similar tank for fuel rocket? Of course, that was a failed attempt, but that's a kind of interesting story about anything goes. Anything can be tried once to see if it actually works or not. Why not? So this is also I'm actually carrying into the corporate world as well. Because in corporation, when you want to do something new, a lot of time people ask why, and you have to
Mm.
justify it. Now, my coach to a lot of corporations that try to answer the question, why not?
Mm. Pourquoi pas, as we say in French a lot.
Right?
Why not?
Why not try it? Why not do it? What's the risk? What's
I
the
love
cost?
that. There's so much
Right?
creative thinking that goes into every decision you make. And I think really being able to stay flexible and agile and ready to come up with really new ideas and just using your surroundings is so important. I'm curious. Obviously, Tesla is a global company, but its mindset is very much go, 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 very Silicon Valley based. How was the transition into Chinese culture and Asia generally?
I think Elon actually influenced quite a lot of Chinese, to be
Mm,
honest. And one
yeah.
of the reason why Chinese government had a special approval, Tesla is the first foreign company to own a company 100% in China.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it has never been approved before. Tesla is the
Wow.
first foreign company that can have a company in China and also owns it 100%.
Wow.
Because Chinese government really want to bring in Tesla to shake up, right? The
Hmm.
industry, but also learn, right? So for the other, young company who want to become the next Tesla to learn from Tesla, what's the better way when you have Tesla in China? That's why the Chinese government essentially have the fast track, special bypass for Tesla to set up factories in China. And I think it benefit both sides. And now I would say a lot of entrepreneur in China really look up to Elon and Tesla and so on and so forth. So there's quite a lot of influence, I think, right now, how entrepreneurs operate
Hmm.
in China. Even they sometimes they try to dress up like Elon. It's kind of funny. Do certain things like Elon or say something like Elon. But I think when you're young, like mimicking someone is not a bad thing, I'll say. Well, of course, you don't want to be a copycat forever,
Right.
but when you first start, you kind of have to learn by mimicking anyway. So I think that's how China learns, that they try to mimic and learn from the best. Then once they feel comfortable enough, then they start developing their own style afterwards.
That's very interesting. We have so many other questions that we love to ask you, but I want to be respectful of your time. One thing that we do to close out all of our conversations here on Venturing Abroad is to ask you a couple of fun, rapid fire questions. And the first one that I have for you is earlier in our conversation, you mentioned that there's some other countries that you'd love to see, perhaps live and work in. What are some of those countries?
Well, there are a couple continents I haven't been to,
Mm,
like Africa, North Arctic, I guess, and Tibet. Yeah, there's a lot of more exotic, I'll say, places I haven't been to. I would definitely hope one day I have a chance to visit it.
The Arctic would be very fun.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you mentioned a bit about business, which is not done in boardrooms, it is not done in the office. First, what is your favorite place to do business? And second, what is your go to karaoke song?
Yeah. Oh my God. Uh, my favorite place, because I'm actually an introverted person, so I don't actually like very crowded, very noisy place.
Mm,
There is a tea shop up in the mountain,
wow.
um, that in Hong Kong, I actually like to take people there to have a tea in the morning and dim sum. Hong Kong is very famous for those
yes.
bamboo, small dishes. Um, I take them there and talk about things, have team outings there. So that's kind of my favorite place to have kind of non-conventional business meetings there. Um, I don't have a favorite song. I'm a terrible singer, so I'm just there to enjoy the atmosphere and the drinking with the people.
That's completely fair.
And finally, Leo, what advice would you give to someone who is looking to venture abroad, whether they're an entrepreneur, an investor, or a leader in the ecosystem?
Of course, make friends. Especially there's always friends who knows another friend who knows like another friends. Just one of the reason we're having this podcast today.
Yes.
Um, don't don't be shy, right? Reach out to your friends to know if they know somebody or somebody knows somebody in that country. If you can find someone in that a local, right? Essentially, it will be a lot more fun and it will be a lot more effective that way. So make new friends. That would be my suggestion.
I love it.
What a great way to end our conversation and come full circle between our friendship with you and being a friend of Daphne's and vice versa. So, Leo, thank you so much for spending time with us. This has been so interesting as a Californian. I loved hearing your takes on the California lifestyle and the culture. And I learned so much through our conversation. Madison, thank you as well for joining. This has been so fun.
Thank you. Now I'm very excited to go up and try that tea house. I'm hoping
Yeah.
one day I'll make it my way over.
Well,
Bucket
next time when
list.
you come, definitely. Yeah,
Absolutely. We would love that. Thank you so much, Leo.
Thank you.